There's a battle being fought for our skies, and most people don't even realize it. 3 airlines from 2 countries the size of South Carolina are trying to take over international commercial aviation. Using the immense wealth of their countries, they're illegally pouring billions of government dollars into luxurious new aircraft, selling cheap seats and unfairly crushing competition.
The issue with the Gulf carriers is that they've been massively subsidized by their governments. They're dumping seats into the market. We can't compete. They're running us out of our markets. They're doing it by taking our jobs, taking our routes. They've done it in Europe, they've done it in Asia, they've done it in Australia, and the next stop for them is to do it in the U.S.
We've got trade agreements with over 120 countries called Open Skies agreements, and we've got real problems with 2 of them.
The UAE and Qatar committed to the notion of no subsidies. Foreign government subsidies are simply illegal.
The Open Skies agreements call for a fair and equal opportunity to compete, to ensure that we compete on a level playing field.
Ours is not subsidy. Ours is proper government equity in a company that is owned by the sovereign fund of my country. So what's the problem?
They say it's not a subsidy, but everyone knows that's exactly what it is.
But you have received billions of dollars.
Yes, we have received billions of dollars.
$50 billion by our estimate over the last 10 years.
The scope of the violation here simply takes one's breath away.
They said they took prices to stupid levels. No normal company can do that.
I'm a businessman, and I will even do business with devil, as long as it is win-win for both.
Qatar's CEO has actually said that they're flying to Atlanta just to rub salt in Delta's wounds.
That told me this is no longer a commercial issue. This is a personal issue. And they're testing our will, and they're testing the will of our government. They're taking our jobs, they're taking our markets, and over time, they want to take over international flying. And we cannot stand for that.
It's all about fairness. You give us a level playing field, and we can compete with any airline.
We are the crown jewel. They want our market.
Our jobs are literally at stake.
It's time for us to fight for our future.
Our future.
Our future.
It's our future. It's our fight.
Our fight.
Our future, our fight.
In the case of shipbuilding and in the case of steel, for example, when faced with foreign government subsidies, these industries have shrunk. Hundreds of thousands of workers have lost their jobs, and many of the surrounding communities have never recovered.
If you think this can happen to the U.S. airline industry, you're mistaken.
I work at International Concourse in Atlanta, and I see Qatar come in. The plane is almost empty every day.
These 3 Gulf airlines are essentially in a sort of a world of Santa Claus economics, where profit is not important, where what matters is they achieve presence in the marketplace, they become a household name.
And eventually, once they have driven everybody else out of business on these routes, then they can price pretty much as they please.
What they're trying to do is to reduce their dependence on oil. They know at some point the oil runs out.
They decided they needed to build a center of global trade and commerce, unlike anything we've ever seen.
But that doesn't mean you subsidize your development by killing off the airlines of other countries.
It is impossible for private enterprise to compete against that kind of aggressive, predatory behavior.
Over the last 2 years, nearly 300 members of the U.S. House and Senate from both parties have called for the enforcement of open skies agreements with the UAE and Qatar.
We are going to enforce, very strongly enforce our trade rules and stop foreign cheating.
President Trump came into office saying he was going to enforce our trade agreements in a vigorous way, using every aspect of leverage at his disposal to do so. This is the test case.
All you have to do is look and see who owns these airlines.
The uncle of the ruler of Dubai is the CEO of Emirates Airlines. He also controls Dubai's Civil Aviation Authority, the company that runs the Dubai airports, the Emirates National Oil Company that supplies fuel for the planes, and the banks that finance the airline.
The rules of business just don't apply to these airlines.
When these Middle Eastern carriers aren't making any money and need to be propped up, they take money from the government and just push it right over to the airlines.
It's not just the aircraft, it's the hotels, it's the limousines, it's the restaurants, the lounges that have been built around the product.
The newest airport in Dubai will be 5 times the size of O'Hare International Airport in a country that is, by any measure, tiny.
These are small countries with small population that are dominating not only aviation today, but the future of aviation.
The Gulf carriers currently have well over 500 wide bodies on order. And just to put that in perspective, the United States and China have fewer than half that number combined.
This is unfathomable, not supported by any reading of the market, not supported by any reading of passenger demand.
Where are those wide bodies going to go? There's only 3 markets that can sustain them. You've got China, you've got Japan, or you've got the US. I guarantee you the Chinese are not going to let them in. The Japanese will definitely not let them in. And in our market, if we don't wake up, we're going to wind up being overrun by them.
Wherever they can find a crack in the system, they will expand like a weed.
They're going to continue to grow from Europe to the US. They want to go over the Pacific, whether it be from Australia or other parts of Asia, onto the West Coast and into the US, and then why not continue with the Americas?
If the government doesn't enforce trade policies, there is nothing to stop these carriers from continuing to expand in our markets.
The Gulf carriers have destroyed competition in countries worldwide.
Emirates Airlines.
And now they are targeting the United States with lavish sponsorships and slick advertising.
I know. Yeah.
Hi, I'm looking for the shower.
There are no showers here, ma'am.
I've always liked Jennifer Aniston, but when I saw that ad,
Why are you laughing like that? You're killing me.
it was very hurtful to see that.
For her to be sending that message inside the United States, it hits me right here as a Delta employee.
15 years ago, the Europeans were some of the strongest airlines in the globe. Air France, KLM, Lufthansa, they've all been harmed massively.
Today, the Gulf carriers offer well over 100 flights per day from their hubs into Europe, and they hit every major city with multiple flights a day.
We have a fierce competition from these Gulf carriers, and we are losing money on several routes, and we have been obliged to stop a certain number of destinations because of this competition.
I think if the Europeans knew the extent of the Gulf carriers' kind of insatiable appetite to take over global aviation, they would have put a stop to it much earlier.
Unfortunately, with the Europeans, they did wake up, but they woke up way too late.
They've run all the competition out of Europe to Asia. They've run all the competition out of Europe to Africa.
At one point, all 3 U.S. carriers, American, Delta, and United, offered nonstop service to India. Today, only United offers service, and only from one city.
We've served India for many, many years. It's a crime that we're not serving India.
When somebody calls and they say, I want to go to India, I have to tell them that we don't fly there. I have to refer them to another airline.
Singapore and Cathay have seen a lot of their premium traffic siphoned off by the Gulf carriers through the hubs. They have lost these customers to the Gulf carriers who are undercutting them on fares because they can.
Qantas has seen its profitability decline year after year. And essentially what Emirates did is back them into a corner and turn them into one of their feeders.
They are going to continue to expand across the transatlantic.
I'm very alarmed. You know, today it's Europe to New York. Maybe tomorrow it's Europe to Los Angeles.
They're already here. They're in LA,
Chicago,
Seattle,
Dallas,
New York,
Atlanta.
Over the last 2 years, the Gulf carriers have increased the capacity to the U.S. by over 50%. Over time, we're going to lose a significant amount of our international services, and I think at least one of the big 3 U.S. airlines will be in jeopardy. This is a fight that we're joined with American Airlines.
We're no longer going to stand for.
We're joined with the people of United Airlines. We're joined with the labor unions because we all realize our future is at stake.
When we cancel routes, we lose jobs.
It's time for us to fight for our future.
Our future, our fight.
It's that serious. This is not about a few routes. This is about American jobs and our ability to keep American jobs if we don't do something about this as a country.
The employees of American, Delta, and United should be very concerned with the Gulf carriers because essentially their jobs are at stake.
Every international route that we lose will cost 1,500 jobs.
The 3 U.S. global airlines support over 50,000 pilot jobs, nearly 80,000 flight attendant jobs, and over 180,000 ground, customer service, aircraft maintenance, and administrative jobs.
The 3 large global U.S. carriers employ well over 300,000 people. But the total number of people that depend on the airline industry is well over 1.2 million in the United States.
So one can imagine the devastating impacts that subsidies can bring to workers, to the communities in which they live.
It affects the hard work and dedication it took us to get here. Our jobs are in jeopardy.
American jobs that support our families.
They're coming and we need to stand up.
We need to stand up and get the U.S. government to act.
Every U.S. carrier that can qualify to both carry passengers and cargo, they give part of their fleets to fly for the military in times of crisis.
U.S. airlines play a vital role in our national defense. Last year, Delta alone flew over 200 charters for military personnel.
I was in the United States military. I know that our military depends heavily on the aviation industry.
Somewhere in the world right now, United States military personnel are flying on our airline.
If we lose a substantial part of our international franchise, we will not have wide bodies and planes available for the U.S. government to move troops.
The U.S. military depends on a strong commercial aviation industry, and we at Delta are proud to be a part of that.
We only need to look north to an example of a country that did take a stand. In Canada, it wasn't easy. There was a lot of political and economic pressure, but they decided to defend their airlines and defend their opportunities for growth, to defend their jobs.
I think they've learned from the lessons of Australia. They've looked at Europe. So Canada has been very, very proactive to limit the amount of flights that the Gulf carriers can offer to their country.
And look at today. They've been able to grow by 25%, and they're going to continue to grow. They did it. We can do it as well.
We need to say enough is enough. We've lost enough American jobs already. We don't need to lose more.
We can compete, but we cannot compete with airlines that are propped up with wheelbarrows of government cash.
We will continue our expansion, not only in the United States.
These airlines are not playing by the rules, and nothing can stop them, and nobody has stopped them so far. This is our chance to stop them.
If these subsidies are allowed to continue, the United States will be basically offshoring our aviation sector and our international connectivity. This simply cannot be allowed to happen.
When we win this fight, we're going to go back to India. We're going to be able to fly back to the Middle East. We're going to be able to add jobs, lots of jobs. We're going to be able to add new long-haul airplanes to support that growth. And that's just going to be the start. Our employees have worked really hard to get our industry and our airline back to where it's at. They've dedicated themselves to this. We cannot let all that hard work go to waste, and we've got to stand and fight.
We need all 80,000 voices at Delta to be heard.
It's time to take a stand.
Right here.
Right now. Support U.S. airlines.
And American jobs.
We need our voices to be louder than their money.
Tell everyone you know
that we are not going to let our country get pushed around.
It's time for our country to enforce its international trade agreements.
It's time to stand up now.
This is our future.
Our future.
Our fight. Our fight.
Our future, our fight.